It's time to fill it. This is gonna be the most boring video ever. Nobody cares. Everyone just clicked off. It's still only Thursday, and I leave on Monday, so.
Disney's Rachel Zegler pulled off a stunt so bold in London that audiences were reportedly shouting "refund" in 4 different languages. What was meant to be her big, career-defining moment in Evita turned into a viral fiasco, thanks to a poorly executed publicity stunt, a shaky performance, and the fact that hundreds of people had their phones recording. The song she was supposed to keep exclusive for the stage ended up splashed all over social media within hours. Instead of applause, she got ridicule, and the fallout was immediate. It's ironic, really. This wasn't just a one-time blunder. It's the latest episode in what's become a long-running saga of Rachel Zegler versus the audience. She's the new Snow White, or at least she was supposed to be. But her own words have done more damage than any critic ever could. She's been caught in interview after interview saying things that range from smug to outright dismissive. At one point, she said, "It's not really about the love story at all," which is really, really wonderful, before joking that maybe all of Andrew's scenes will get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby. The problem? That wasn't said with charm. It was dripping with the kind of arrogance that makes people roll their eyes rather than root for you. Rachel has built a reputation not for her talent, which, to be fair, is considerable, but for being extraordinarily woke in the most performative way possible. She's become a case study in how ego and social activism, when mixed without self-awareness, can sink a promising career. Once seen as Hollywood's rising star, she's now been branded box office poison before ever proving herself at the box office. From alienating audiences to making headlines for all the wrong reasons, Zegler has turned what should have been a fairy tale into a full-blown cautionary tale. And it all started so differently. At just 17, Rachel Zegler landed the role of Maria in Steven Spielberg's West Side Story, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. She was hailed as the next big thing, snagged a Golden Globe, and was praised as the new face of Hollywood diversity. Casting directors adored her, studios wanted her, and Disney, ever eager to attach itself to young talent, handed her the lead in their live-action Snow White remake, a project with a $200 million budget and sky-high expectations. But the dream began to unravel fast. Between her tone-deaf comments about the original 1937 Snow White, her increasingly political outbursts, and her public disdain for the very audience Disney depends on, Rachel managed to burn through the goodwill she once had. Industry insiders now describe her as impossible to manage, someone who ignores PR advice, picks unnecessary fights online, and seems genuinely allergic to humility. By 2025, the girl who once graced red carpets as Spielberg's Discovery was instead facing a wave of backlash. Evita, which was supposed to be her comeback, turned into another meme-fueled disaster, with empty seats, awkward breakdowns, and an understudy who ended up stealing the spotlight. On social media, hashtags like "Mom Replace Rachel" trended for days, and fans openly debated who should take her place in Snow White. Rachel Zegler's story could have been a classic Hollywood triumph, a young talent breaking barriers, redefining roles, inspiring audiences. Instead, it's become something darker, the myth of how to take a billion-dollar opportunity and reduce it to ashes through arrogance, self-importance, and a complete lack of self-awareness. An iconic song, yes, but it's the balcony that's stealing every headline. Evita has officially turned into a spectacle for all the wrong reasons. Things got so desperate that the production team actually began live streaming Rachel Zegler's performance outside the theater, like some kind of sidewalk attraction. Imagine walking past your local cafe and suddenly being bombarded by a full Broadway ballad you never asked for. That's the level of chaos we're talking about. They couldn't sell tickets, so they slapped up a screen and hoped random passersby would mistake curiosity for fandom. It didn't work. Ticket prices plummeted until they were literally free. Zero, nada. Which tells you everything about how badly people wanted to hear her sing about Argentina. Now, to be fair, the creative team tried to spin it. One of them said, "Some people might be disappointed she isn't singing it live, but it'll be outweighed by the theatricality of using film in that way." Sure, because nothing screams live theater magic like watching a pre-recorded performance on a sidewalk while pigeons scatter around your feet. But honestly, it's not all on the theater crowd. Disney deserves a solid chunk of the blame here. though Rachel certainly helped dig the hole deeper. Her casting as Snow White was controversial from day one. The 1937 version gave us a sweet, soft-spoken princess who radiated innocence, grace, and optimism. In their infinite wisdom, Disney decided to toss that charm out the window and replace it with Rachel's version. A smug, self-serious girl boss with a superiority complex and a personal vendetta against fairy tales themselves. The studio called it modernization. Audiences called it tone-deaf. Rachel didn't exactly help her own case either. She went on press tours bashing the prince as a creepy stalker, mocked the original love story as weird, and claimed that Snow White's name no longer referred to her skin tone but to her survival through a blizzard. A blizzard? That's not character depth. That's fan fiction with a thesaurus. And let's not forget the studio geniuses who thought replacing the 7 dwarfs with glowing CGI blobs was somehow progressive. It's like every decision was made by a committee trying to impress Twitter rather than entertain actual human beings. Even the political messaging got tangled. The film tried to position itself as bold and empowering, but somehow ended up alienating everyone. Conservatives called it propaganda, longtime Disney fans called it disrespectful, and progressives rolled their eyes because it still wasn't progressive enough. The left managed to cancel itself mid-production. Meanwhile, Rachel Zegler became the lightning rod for all of it. She's not just the face of the film, she's the face of Hollywood's tone-deaf arrogance. Critics dragged her for openly disrespecting the very character she was paid millions to play. Imagine casting Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool only for him to say, "Superheroes are dumb and this suit smells like garlic." The difference is, Ryan would somehow make that charming. Rachel, not so much. And to top it all off, she made things worse with her interviews. At one event, she actually said, "At every premiere I go to, people will wait in line to see me." You heard that right. She genuinely believes she's the main attraction. Not the film, not the story, but her. Fans weren't buying it. Social media exploded with memes, edits, and parodies mocking her self-importance. Disney wanted a modern fairy tale. What they got was a PR disaster wrapped in a red carpet dress. The hashtag #TheNotMySnowWhite blew up faster than Rachel Zegler's box office numbers collapsed. And honestly, that says everything. The internet collectively decided they'd had enough. Enough of Hollywood modernizing their childhood favorites. Enough of lectures disguised as fairy tales. And especially enough of celebrities who seem more interested in preaching than performing. People don't go to Disney movies to be scolded. They go for magic, nostalgia, and a little escapism. Instead, they got a full-blown TED Talk on why everything they loved as kids was apparently problematic. And at the center of it all stood Rachel Zegler, the self-appointed reformer of fairy tales, who somehow managed to alienate nearly every demographic imaginable. Critics, fans, parents, even feminists were like, "Girl, please stop talking." Every interview she gave felt like a slam poetry reading titled, "Why the Original Sucked and I'm Better." And then she mocked the prince as a stalker, dismissed the romance as weird, and acted like the original Snow White was a personal insult to her values. I'm honestly surprised she didn't find a way to cancel the poisoned apple too. Her infamous quote still makes the rounds. The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah, weird. It wasn't just criticism. It was condescension. She talked about the film like it was beneath her. She even said, "We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story, just because we cast a guy." Translation, this isn't your grandma's fairy tale, peasants. But wait, it actually gets worse. Rachel didn't just alienate audiences. She practically went on a world tour doing it. Most rising stars would kill for the kind of attention she had. Smile for the cameras, wave to fans, thank everyone, and keep the PR train running. Not Rachel. She managed to turn every friendly moment into a headline-worthy cringe fest. Case in point, during an interview with Jimmy Kimmel, she told a story about how a fan sang a line from West Side Story to her at a Chili's of all places, and she claimed it ruined her night. Imagine that. Someone's excited to see you, tries to celebrate your work, and instead of gratitude, you respond with disgust. Thanks for being a fan. Now my enchiladas are ruined. And it didn't stop there. During a Disneyland visit, to the park that literally keeps her employer's lights on, she joked that she has to pretend to love people when fans stop her for photos. Pretend? She actually said that. Can you imagine telling the people who make your career possible that you have to fake kindness just to deal with them? That's not authentic, that's arrogant. Her behavior became so notorious that clips of her dismissive attitude started flooding social media. The internet tore her apart, calling her the most ungrateful Disney lead in history. Even major commentators chimed in saying, "I truly believe there's something wrong with her. She's disturbed, unhappy, and hiding it behind fake activism." And whether or not that's fair, one thing's certain. Rachel's downfall wasn't just public, it was viral. And speaking of disasters, let's talk numbers. Disney didn't just bet on Rachel, they went all in. Over $200 million on production, another $100 million on marketing. That's a combined budget bigger than the GDP of some small nations. And what did all that cash buy them? An opening weekend so bad it became a meme. The US box office barely scraped together $43 million. A catastrophic flop by Disney standards. And it just keeps getting uglier. By week 2, Snow White wasn't just dropping, it was plummeting, with a 66% drop in ticket sales. That's not a stumble. That's a full-on Titanic moment, lifeboats screaming as the whole thing sinks. The public had spoken, and Rachel Zegler had become the face of the disaster. Theaters quietly started moving screenings to awkward midday slots or pulling the film entirely. In China, usually a guaranteed goldmine for Disney, the movie pulled in less than $1 million, basically enough for a few bags of popcorn. Final estimates put total losses around $150 million. That's the kind of failure that makes execs question everything, with some probably retiring early just to avoid handling the fallout. Rachel managed to turn go woke, go broke into a business model. She offended the audience, insulted the original creators, and burned through hundreds of millions of dollars, all while crying on a balcony for a stage play that people were streaming for free outside. Disney recreated Snow White, went woke, and watched their investment evaporate. Talent or not, humility isn't something you can teach, and Rachel apparently left hers in a trailer somewhere. And just when you thought the disaster stopped at box office numbers, no. Enter the dwarf disaster, which really nailed the coffin shut. Originally, Disney planned to cast real actors with dwarfism for the 7 dwarfs, a simple, inclusive choice that respected both the story and the talent pool. But then Peter Dinklage, who apparently decided he's the CEO of all short-statured actors, went on a podcast and called the concept regressive. And just like that, Disney folded like a wet napkin. They scrapped the plan and replaced the dwarfs with CGI blobs, glowing, soulless, cartoonish smudges that looked like they'd been rendered by an intern on a 2007 laptop. It was a visual disaster and a PR nightmare all in one. Meanwhile, Rachel, the supposed star, acted like a victim, like her life was somehow the problem. The mentality of turning a billion-dollar opportunity into a personal crusade is exactly what's poisoning public perception, and she became the poster child for it. Box office bombs, alienated fans, glowing CGI dwarfs, and a lead actress who treats her role like an inconvenience. This was no longer just a flop. This was a masterclass in Hollywood self-sabotage. Disney's Snow White remake turned into a full-blown disaster, and Rachel Zegler became the poster child for its failure. The casting was controversial from the start. The 1937 classic featured a sweet, soft-spoken princess, but Disney reimagined Snow White as a modern girl boss with a superiority complex. Rachel only amplified the backlash, openly criticizing the prince, dismissing the original love story, and even redefining Snow White's iconic name, supposedly inspired by surviving a blizzard rather than her fair skin. The controversy didn't stop with her words. Disney initially planned to cast real actors with dwarfism for the 7 dwarfs, roles designed for them for decades. But after Peter Dinklage publicly criticized the plan, Disney panicked and replaced the actors with CGI creations. Glowing, soulless blobs. Rachel celebrated the decision as a progressive move, further alienating audiences and offending the actors who had lost their jobs. Her press tour and public appearances made matters worse. Every interview became a soapbox for political opinions and social commentary delivered with smug detachment. She dismissed fan interactions, joked about co-stars' scenes being cut, and treated promotional events like personal stages for her activism. Audiences quickly realized the princess they were paying to see had become a polarizing figure preaching her own agenda. Chemistry with co-stars was non-existent, interviews were awkward, and the energy she brought felt less like Disney magic and more like a college sophomore discovering Tumblr feminism. The film itself flopped. Opening weekend in the US brought in only $43 million, followed by a 66% drop in week 2. In China, it earned less than $1 million. Total estimated losses approached $150 million. Disney executives were reportedly panicking, some even considering canceling the project entirely. Marketing teams were told to avoid using her in promotions. She became box office poison. Social media exploded with viral clips of her most tone-deaf moments, with hashtags like #NotMySnowWhite trending as the internet collectively rejected her performance and persona. Rachel's activism only intensified the backlash. Posting statements targeting political figures while promoting a family film turned a PR problem into a cultural spectacle. Boycotts erupted, commentators called for her firing, and she became the face of a billion-dollar brand collapse. Critics labeled the remake a Frankenstein girl boss with no heart, warmth, or joy, and social media only amplified the outrage. Her public image shifted from rising star to cautionary tale almost overnight. The combination of arrogance, performative activism, and lack of public charm made her radioactive in Hollywood casting rooms. She could act, but nobody wanted the circus she brought along. Disney's attempt to modernize Snow White was overshadowed by her ego, turning a beloved fairy tale into a bitter, divisive spectacle. She alienated audiences, disrespected the original creators, and undermined a major studio project, all while presenting herself as a misunderstood visionary. By the end, Rachel Zegler wasn't just a failed Disney princess. She became a symbol of how unchecked ego, social media, and public self-righteousness can destroy a career. Audiences learned not to buy what she was selling. Not the movie, not the message, and definitely not the tears. Disney's Snow White collapse became a case study in celebrity mismanagement, and Rachel emerged as the cautionary tale at the center of it all.